Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. My name is Renee. If you're new, welcome. If not, thanks for joining me once again. So today's video, I have a word from the Lord to share with you all. And so, yeah, I'm just going to jump right into what he's given me to share. And actually, before I do that, I want to share that, every word is not for every single person, but I believe that if this is for you, the Lord will share it with you. And this may just be confirmation of what he's already spoken to you about. And so I would just urge everyone to seek the Lord, seek him about what he's saying to you because he speaks to every single one of us and he wants to. And so it's for us to truly just ask him and to seek his face, to be at his feet and to truly seek him. And, he will speak to you. And so, yeah, I just encourage all of you to seek the Lord if this is something that he's sharing with you and it's for you in this time or season. So, yeah, I'm just going to jump right into it. So, the Lord said, you're rebuilding the wall. You're rebuilding the wall. And he had me studying the book of Nehemiah. And I had never studied Nehemiah before, but he spoke this to me. And the wall that he's referring to here is the wall of Jerusalem, right? His holy city, his holy people, or his people, his chosen people. And so, yeah, I would recommend for you all to read the book of Nehemiah, especially if this resonates with you and you believe that this is something that the Lord is sharing with you. And so Nehemiah, the Lord had truly placed like a burden on his heart, pressed upon him to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. Just the state of what Jerusalem was in was not a good place. The Lord had brought them out of captivity. They had gone through a lot, right? The Jews had survived. But at this point in time, they were not in a good place. Their walls were broken down. Their gates were burned and destroyed by fire. And Nehemiah, when he hears of this, he literally weeps and mourns for days and truly is praying before the Lord and reverencing the Lord and confessing his sins, because Jerusalem is in this place. The people are in this place because they sinned. They've basically done away with the commands of the Lord. They're not obeying the commands of the Lord. They're not fearing the Lord. They're not in reverence awe of the Lord. And they're just not living in the way that the Lord has called them to. And so, And so the walls kind of represents the state of the people. And also the Lord was showing me how, walls, it wasn't just about a physical wall. Like the walls are the strength of the city, the protection of the city. And they were broken. They were broken. And, the Lord is our strength. The Lord is our protection. And so it's also just showing how the relationship with the Lord, it just wasn't in the best place. And also their identity as a people. Again, these are the Lord's chosen people, the remnant, the people that have survived, coming out of captivity and exile. And so, the Lord said, you're rebuilding the wall. And so when the Lord spoke this to me, I was just like, okay, Lord, what do you mean by you're rebuilding the wall? And so he just continued to reveal more things to me through Nehemiah's story and what took place. Nehemiah, he was steadfast. Well, first thing, he had a broken heart, broken spirit, like contrite spirit for the state of the people, the state of the place where his ancestors were from, the place where his ancestors were buried. Like, he mourned over this. And again, he confessed his sins to the Lord. That he has that not only has he sinned, but he sinned against God. And then he pleads with the Lord. He truly prays to the Lord to remember his words that he had spoken to Moses. And so, yeah, Nehemiah is determined. The Lord provides favor with the Persian king because Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the Persian king at the time. And the Lord just provides favor with that situation and provides, I guess, the provision to do it from the wood and everything. And the people come together. The people of Jerusalem come together to rebuild their walls, to rebuild what had been broken. And that was a huge piece here. Is that yes, they were steadfast, especially Nehemiah. But also the Lord was showcasing really the importance of unity here, because they had to come together to get it done. Each person did their part. Some people did the spots of the wall right, like basically in front of their homes. Like, people came together. Some people did more than one area. Like, they worked together. And they came under oppression. They had enemies that tried to stop. They had people that wanted to kill Nehemiah. But Nehemiah was like, y'all remember that, like, the Lord will fight for us. Let's keep going. We have to do this. We need to do this. And the Lord has us. And so don't be afraid. We're not going to, but let's armor up. And, the Lord, like, they had, physical armor. And they always, like, they kept their swords on them. Like, I think they mentioned, like, even, like, not taking their clothes off. And so it's like, and having their swords with them at all times. And having, like, shifts to make sure that even as they were building the wall, having their protection on them as well. So it's like, they didn't allow any of the oppression, any perceived attacks. They didn't allow any of that to stop them from rebuilding the wall, from doing what the Lord had called them to do, and truly almost like getting like reconciled to the Lord and rebuilding their protection. Rebuilding their city, rebuilding their identity as a people, as the Lord's chosen people. And so, they were steadfast in that. They had to persevere again. They came against opposition. People didn't want it to happen, of course, but they persevered and they did it in and through the Lord. And so, some other key points in here the Lord was highlighting was the importance of prayer. Nehemiah prayed basically the whole way through and crying out to the Lord in fear of the Lord, a reverent awe of the Lord as well. And so it's time to arise and build for the kingdom of God, for us to walk in our rightful places and to do what the Lord has called for us to do. Again, they came against enemies, and that's in here on purpose. But they're like, the Lord will fight for us. And the Lord provided, and the Lord got them through. And they didn't take off their armor. Right? And the Lord has given us the armor of God to always have on. And so there's so much to this, but the Lord said, you're rebuilding the wall. And I think it was a couple or maybe a few days before he said you were building the wall, he brought back to my remembrance something he spoke to me back in October that I'd forgotten about. But the Lord brought it back to my remembrance before he had me studying Nehemiah and brought it back. And so it's for a time, and this is the time to share it. He said, build, you're going to build. And he spoke that back in October, right? He said, you're going to build. And I believe that now is the time to build. That this year is a time to build. There's no time to waste. There's no time to play. There's no time to procrastinate. Now is the time. You know, if this is what the Lord is speaking to you, he's saying you're going to build. It's time to build. And he also said you're rebuilding the wall, you know? So, yeah. And so when the Lord said you're building the wall, he was speaking that to me through the book of Nehemiah. But originally when the Lord said build, you're going to build, he used the book of Genesis and the story of Noah and the ark. And so again, there's like two parts to this, right? There's the rebuilding the wall, you know, his people coming together in unity to rebuild the wall, you know, for his kingdom, for his glory, despite opposition, you know, persevering, you know, doing what the Lord has called them to do, and having that burden on their heart to do it, to be in right standing with the Lord and rebuild those walls. And then the second part of it is where the Lord said, build, you're going to build. And where he used the story of Noah. For some of you, you're called to and purposed. And the assignment the Lord has given to you is to build something that hasn't been done before or seen before. Because that's what Noah did. The Lord had him to build an ark. They didn't know rain. But the Lord spoke to Noah and was like, do this. And people may have thought he was crazy. But the Lord was preserving Noah, was preserving his sons and their wives, his family. And the Lord would also have, would preserve the animals. You know, they came in pairs, motivated by the Lord and for purpose and on purpose. And so the Lord had Noah and his family do something that hadn't been done before. He had called them to build. Because also they were also being preserved for a time for the Lord to release them out into purpose, and also for them to preserve and steward over the animal so that in the Lord's divine timing, the Lord could also release the animals to do their purpose and to be fruitful and to multiply and do what the Lord had called for them to do. And so there's really so much to this, but I pray that, you know, that you just seek the Lord about what he's saying to you, because it is so much. So it's like, what areas in your life is the Lord calling you to build? It can be in every area. It can be in different aspects of things. It can be in family. It can be in business. It can be in just pursuing the purposes the Lord has for you. Stepping into the calling that he has for you, whatever it is. The Lord is saying, build, you're going to build. And he also said, you're rebuilding the wall. And so it's time to arise and build and do what he's called for you to do. Because he has you here for such a time as this. And it's for his purpose, for his glory, and truly the kingdom of God. So, yeah. I'll have different scriptures in the description box. But yeah, that's, in the grand scheme of things, that's all I have to share. But there was so much to this. So yeah, I love y'all. and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.